said you always moved at night, so we went from a camp in New Jersey to Brooklyn Harbor in New York, and moved at night and went out to the ship. The ship was the Queen Elizabeth #1.
Oh, really?
The famous liner.
Yeah.
And it was loaded with nurses and soldiers and all that. And of course, I think you probably know that the Queen Elizabeth and the Queen Mary were two of the fastest luxury liners in the world. But it took more than, I like the Queen Elizabeth, I think, was across the,
About a week, right?
no, about 4 days.
4 days.
4 or 5 days.
That's pretty fast.
Yes, but it took longer because they had to watch for submarines.
Well, you had the Germans.
German
it was
submarines.
infested,
Yeah.
right?
So
Wasn't it kind of scary?
I was never afraid anytime.
No?
No, I don't know why. I just wasn't. And we landed in.
You had St. Anthony.
That's right. In Glasgow, Scotland.
That's where you landed?
Yes.
Oh.
And so we took the train from Glasgow to Manchester, England. And that's where we were to be billeted. It was raining and they didn't
So
have
what
any-
time of the year is this? Is this January?
It was February
Oh, February.
and or January. Anyhow, we had to walk from the train in the rain to this old house in England. There were 40 nurses there already.
Was this like an estate? Because they took
No, it was an old, as one of the Englishmen said, only the Americans would accept this type of accommodation. It was an old house, 2-story house, and had been vacated for a long time.
You were just sleeping on the floor?
Yeah. So, here, 40 nurses
That's a
there
lot.
already.
A lot of
and then
people in one house.
40 of us, so there were 80
80.
nurses in this house, and neither bathroom, there were 2 bathrooms.
Oh my God.
Neither one of them worked.
Neither one of them worked?
No.
So
So,
Did you guys dig a
Anyhow.
latrine for yourselves?
the next morning, someone came into our area and said, you have to get up, it's, the commanding officer said, and we said, he's not our commanding officer. So anyhow, those 40 nurses left and we were there. Well, needless to say, it was cold and no heat. So we tried to light a fire in the fireplace, and then the boards underneath caught on fire, so.
Oh, no, yeah.
So what are you in what are you wearing? Are you in a uniform? Like are you in
I
a
had
dress?
I had my red log underwear from Minnesota.
I bet you're glad you did.
Because were you expected to be wearing a skirt and
No, you
you
wore fatigues most
you were
of the time.
okay, good. So at least you weren't wearing something really impractical.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And, so we were there for a while, and then we were assigned to different hospitals in England. I was assigned to a American hospital, general hospital in South think it was southeastern England, town of Axminster, near the town of Axminster. And,
Was it a regular hospital that had been set up for the troops?
Americans had hospitals all over in England and Europe and everywhere, wherever they were. And there were different types of hospitals. This was a general hospital. And then there were regional, different levels, you see. So you get back to the evacuation hospitals or the MASH type units. And so most of the patients I took care of at that time were patients from the Battle of the Bulge. And
So they probably suffered a lot of hypothermia, right? Probably lost
a
limbs
lot
from
frostbite by a whole ward full of them. Their legs swollen and purple and all, and a lot of depressed patients. And so then this all took place while we were waiting to be sent to the continent. So we got the notice to be sent to the continent and got our gear loaded with a helmet and backpack and all, and crossed the English Channel. And of course, that was again at night. And then we got on one of those landing barges.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Probably similar to the ones they used in
They
D-Day, right?
Dumped us into on the shore.
shore.
Were
and-
you, did they dump you in France?
Yeah,
In
yeah,
France?
Le Havre.
Mm.
And your feet got cold as ice because you're walking in the water, you know.
Yeah.
And
So this is now. Is this like March now?
probably something.
So it's
like
getting a
that.
little warmer,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
This
yeah.
is 45 or 40?
No,
This
it
is
was
40
one of the coldest winters that they'd had in many, many years. And I'm telling you, I was never so cold in my whole life.
I think, isn't it that more troops just froze to death than were shot to death in the Battle of the
Probably.
Bulge? I think.
Probably,
Yeah.
yes. So then
So you landed in France.
we landed in Le Havre and were sent to a staging area. It was an old cavalry institution, smelled to high heaven, and
What was the smell from?
From the cow, from the horses.
From the
right?
horses?
horses.
So it was actually still a cavalry?
But no, but it was a vacated place. The Americans have a penchant for occupying vacated places. Like the Englishman said, only the Americans would accept these accommodations. And so we were getting ready to cross the Rhine River, because that's where the battles were taking place.
Yeah.
So
So how are you traveling now? Are you traveling?
we traveled in 2-ton trucks at night.
And you got a big white cross on top of your truck?
No. I don't know. I don't think they had. I don't recall any.
Or a red one.
The only time I recall putting up a big red cross was when you had established your
Your unit.
hospital,
Mm.
and you didn't.
But not
want-
when you're being
you
transported.
didn't want to be bombed by the Germans.
Right.
So it was a huge red cross, as
I
large as this room.
With the evac troop that you were in, you don't want to know, you don't want to really tell people where you are because you're following the troops,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you want to kind of keep it secret.
Yeah,
But-
that makes sense.
But when we first crossed the Rhine, we put up this big red cross. house on the hillside so that it wouldn't be bombed.
So how did you, was there a bridge that you could get across the river, or how
no.
did you get across the
No.
river?
The Corps of Engineers built pontoon bridges.
Oh,
So you crossed on these pontoon bridges. And it was
because
just.
most of the bridges probably would have been bombed.
Pardon?
Most of the bridges would have been bombed, right?
They were.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, The Bridge at Remagen,
Mhm.
which is just south of where we were. And we weren't too far from Cologne. You could see the steeples of the cathedral. So we set up the hospital there. It was about 2 or 3 miles from what they have written. I have an article on it. One of the biggest battles of the war was the Hürtgen Forest.
The Herkenborn.
So we were about 2 or 3 miles from there. So we got them, they were this wounded were piled up outside we put a pre-op tent. And one of my first jobs was in the pre-op tent where I had to cut away their clothes and clean their wounds and see that they were tested for tetanus and then took it from there. And then because we were moving so fast and they needed nurses in other units, some of us were transferred to forward evac units.
So how rapidly were you moving? Were you moving every
Wow.
day?